Hi guys, it's Maizie from Sholo Public Library, and we're back today in the Sholo TV studio, bringing you another episode of Healthy Cooking with Sholo Public Library. This project is provided with grant funds from the network of the National Library of Medicine in partnership with the Charlie Cart Project and Sholo High School. I've got my partner in crime here with me again today. He came back for another show with me, you guys.
Hello, Chef Smokin Bill here today. Today our episode is going to be, some people call it healthy, some people call it not healthy. I like it healthy because of the type of meat we buy. We don't buy meat with a lot of fat in it, which makes it more healthy. We are going to make barbecued pork. We're going to make it two different ways, and after we get our barbecued pork set up, we're going to actually talk about knives and knife safety and a little bit about what different types of knives there are, what they're used for, and then go into what the restaurant world calls garde manger, which is the guy in the big fancy restaurants that makes salads, soups, pastas, things of that nature. Okay, so we have our recipe here for our pulled pork. We have, let me put that back down, I got to do it in the right sequence. We have garlic, onion. Now these are granulated. I believe on the recipe it calls them powdered. It's okay, you can use either one. One of them's just coarser than the other one. We have some dry mustard. It's what regular mustard is made out of without the vinegar, so it doesn't have that vinegar flavor. Some people don't like the vinegar flavor.
I didn't know that.
We've got some paprika. We're using smoked paprika. There are about 5 other kinds of paprika. One of them's Hungarian. There's Spanish. There's a few more. We have some white pepper. White pepper is a different type of pepper than black pepper. We also have some black pepper. White pepper's got a little different taste to it than the black pepper. Most people are real familiar with black pepper. We've got salt, sugar, brown sugar, and brown sugar. Anytime you have brown sugar, I'm going to pick this up a little bit. You're going to notice that the brown sugar is actually in the mold of what it was served in. What it was scooped with. Brown sugar is always packed. Okay, so whenever you put it out of like either a teaspoon, a cup, half cup, whatever, it should maintain the shape of whatever it's in because it's got to be packed. And then we have a little bit of rosemary here. We're going to put all of these in our bowl. I'm going to hand the little disposal, the little plastic things here to Maizie. And we're going to have a little bit of fun because we're not going to use a lot of utensils today. We're actually going to use our hands. If you don't want to get your hands dirty, buy yourself some disposable gloves. They'll go over your hands to keep your hands clean. The paprika does have a tendency to stain your hands. So you want to make sure that if you don't want your hands to be stained red, get you some little gloves to wear.
Looks like a murder scene.
Okay, so we have everything in here. The rosemary just gives it a touch of a flavor. Now, rosemary, sage.
Thyme.
There's a couple other ones that are extremely strong herbs. So you might be using a tablespoon of a lot of things, and then the rosemary will be like half a tablespoon, like half a teaspoon. That's okay. You don't want to put a tablespoon of rosemary, it will overwhelm everything else. Basil is another one that does that. It overwhelms everything. Okay, so we're going to take our fingers, we're going to mix this up really, really good. We want it mixed really good all the way through. Break up that brown sugar as small as you can get it. If you want to break up the brown sugar ahead of time, you can. See, this is the fun part to me. I love getting into the food and actually getting down and dirty with it.
I don't know how I feel about that. It's like when you make meatloaf and you think this is going to be good, but you have to
you get in there.
Hands in there, and it's just so squishy and weird at first. And then once you're doing it, it's okay. But initially, I'm always like, and then I'm like, okay, just do it. Just go for it.
Yeah, now we've got it all mixed up. That's why I said we can't be afraid of getting dirty today. Here's our recipe. We are going to take, and to avoid getting the entire table dirty, we're going to put ours in here. Now I didn't cut any of the fat off of this. We're going to use the fat to help us keep it moist.
Okay.
But we're going to rub this in.
In theory, though, they could trim off, like I call that the fat back. That's what
It's
I
the
call it.
fat cap, fat back.
That's what I call it.
And you notice I'm getting it all over the table still anyway. And it's called a dry rub, and you literally rub it into the meat. You want it rubbed into the meat. Okay, when we do our smoker version, we're going to use a lot more product, and we're going to make it a lot thicker when we rub it in, so you'll be able to see the difference between what we're doing. We're going to do all sides of it here.
You are making a mess, my goodness.
It's cleanable.
It is cleanable.
We'll bring in the cleaning crew. Their name is Ezam and Lib. You know who they are, right?
No.
Us backwards.
Oh, okay.
Ezam, Maizie backwards, Lib, Bill backwards.
That's you.
You have to come up with goofy things like that when you work with little kids. Little kids love that stuff, you know what I mean?
They do.
Okay, so we've got it all nice and rubbed in here.
Okay.
So now, really quick, go ahead and take that off.
Is that off?
Maisie, trying to keep things clean. She doesn't want to have to clean the crock pot basin. She got a crock pot liner. I'm not a crock pot liner kind of person.
This is the first time I've actually used one, is when I made the
Okay.
pork yesterday, and I thought it went okay.
It does, but
For
I
easy
don't mind.
cleanup.
Yeah,
These are official crock pot like liners you buy in the store.
so the way I put it in the crock pot will be the same way we put it in the smoker, but we'll film that episode a little bit later. We're going to put it in the crock pot fat side up.
Fat side up.
This way, as it's cooking, the fat renders down through the meat.
That's good.
So we're going to put that in there. We're going to set this to the side.
We're going to cook it on low for a couple of hours. We did it before, and I started it about 8 in the morning before I went to work, and then when I came home it was done. So it had been about 8 hours on low is what you're going to do.
Open that, please.
You're going to put all the goodness in there?
Oh yeah, we got to get the table's clean. We washed the table before we start, so we're going to let this cook for a while. While it's cooking, we're going to talk about some different knives, because there's a lot of different knives that if you ever decide that you want to, and I'm kind of looking at this really close, not watching the camera so much, I like to watch what I'm doing. Plus, these can be really, really sharp, and it would be very easy to cut your hands if you're not watching what you're doing and paying attention. This is a standard chef knife kit right here. In the knife kit, it comes with some things off to the side. I left some bigger knives at home, but you have the standard knife here. This is known as a standard chef knife.
Bigger than that?
Yeah, I have one that's like this long. I've got one that's
Wow.
really thin that's about this long. That's a carving knife. I have a cleaver for cutting dead animals into pieces.
That would have been fun. You should have brought that.
It would cut this table up. Okay.
Kids like that
This
stuff.
is a chef knife. Chef knives start out at about 7 inches. They get up to 9, and then they make some that are like 14. I like to have a knife that feels good in my hand. It shouldn't be uncomfortable to hold. When you are holding a knife, you should not hold the handle and cutting. We might have talked about this before, but it's important to just keep this in mind safety-wise. We didn't buy the pork in little chunks. We bought it in long things. And we're using pork loin, not pork shoulder, because pork loin has less fat in it. So it makes it more healthy. If you hold a knife like this, like most people try to hold a knife, and you're cutting, the knife has a tendency to want to roll in your hand. Well, now you've got this hand down here trying to hold whatever product you're cutting, and the knife goes like this and cuts into the bottom of your fingers.
Ow.
Okay, so when you hold a knife, you hold it one of 3 ways. You hold it like this. This holds the blade.
Okay.
Now you're controlling the blade, not the handle. You don't even have, realistically, we could get rid of these 3 fingers, but we don't. They just kind of touch the handle, okay? And then that way you're controlling the blade. This is a standard chef knife, also known as a kitchen knife or a French knife.
What makes it French?
That's a great question that I will answer right now. Everything in the cooking world, everything in culinary arts is French-based.
It's Frances.
Frances, yeah, Frances. We're not going to do the other part. The reason why is because when they started it way back in the 1500s, it started in France. So everything has a French name. I'll give you an example. A pastry chef is not called a pastry chef, he's a pastier. Because it's French, and that's where it all comes from. Now the rest of these may not have French names because that's the knife we use all the time. This is known as a Santoku.
I like that one. I use one like that at home.
The sides of the blade are called a granitier. And this is so, if this knife has a tendency, when you're cutting, food wants to stick to the sides because it's wet. Okay? When you're cutting with this one, it gives little air pockets, and the food has a tendency to fall off of it. Okay, so a Santoku came from the Orient.
I was going to say, that sounds Japanese.
This is a utility knife. This is what they used to use to open boxes and stuff like that. Now they use kitchen shears.
Or box cutter.
Or a box cutter, but this is a utility knife. Used to do everything. This hardly ever touches food.
Oh.
It's for everything else we do.
Okay.
This is a slicer.
A bread knife.
Or a bread knife. It's known as a bread slicer. The actual slicer that I have is the one that's really long, and it's sharp enough that you just touch the meat and drop it through it.
Wow.
You don't have to push or slide or anything. This is a fillet knife. Okay, now it's really cool. It's designed for filleting fish. I'm going to move this off to the side, and it's flexible. Without breaking the blade, it'll actually fold.
Wow.
So that you can get it down in between the skin of the fish and the fillet, and you can just slice it right off. Over here, we then have another knife that's very similar to that one. This is known as a boning knife. This is what, when you was to debone chicken or something, you wanted to get it all out of there. Because if you can actually learn to buy larger chunks of meat, you can save a lot of money.
Yeah, you just have to be able to quarter it all.
Or debone it if you don't like the bone on it. This knife is also flexible. This is known as a scimitar. And a lot of people will replace their fillet knife and their boning knife with a scimitar. It is also flexible. Okay. On the other side of the standard chef kit, we have
all the fancy
some more
things.
Cutting devices.
That's the timer on the oven. It's okay.
We have a jagged edge, what is known as a Parisian scoop. It's for cutting little pieces of fruit like apples, strawberries, cherries, things like that into little pieces. A zester. We talked about this before, where if you want to get a lot of lemon juice, you pre-squeeze the lemon on the ground, on the table. The more flavor actually comes out of the zest on the outside of the lemon. Don't get the white stuff. The white stuff is really, really bitter. We're going to skip these two. I'll do them last. This is known as a channel knife. It's designed to cut channels in food so that you can create little grooves.
Oh, okay.
This is a standard paring knife used to make small straight cuts that you don't want to try to make with this big old huge knife.
Oh, come on, that'd be so much fun.
And this is a special tournée. It's kind of goofy. The sharp part is not on the outside. The sharp part is on the inside.
It kind of looks like a hook.
And it's used for making curved cuts. Over here we have
hang on to that.
Some of the same tools. You've got your Parisian scoop, your zester, your channel knife. We have a peeler, a fish scaler.
Speaking of a hook.
A corer, and a melon baller. In my class, I talk to the students and I'm like, do you really think that a chef takes a little teeny paring knife, cuts perfectly round circles?
That'd be fun.
But this makes it so much easier. Okay. Now, we've got our roast all done. Again, we pre-cooked one just for the convenience of time. We're going to shred the roast. If your roast is properly cooked, you don't need fancy tools. I've got fancy tools that buffalo choppers. I've got a thing called a Roman pork puller. But if your roast is properly done, a set of forks will shred it apart like it's going to work.
It looks good.
This is nice and properly cooked. I know Maizie said earlier about 2 hours. Realistically, guys, you could probably do this. Put your pork in before you go to work, and when you got home at 5 o'clock on low, you're ready to shred.
And this roast was probably, what do you think, like 5 or 6 pounds?
It was, yeah, about 5.
About 5 when we put it in.
And you're going to see that there's going to be enough for quite a few sandwiches here. Unless you're like me, and then the sandwich has to be mounded for just plumb full of it.
So what do you normally like on your pulled pork sandwich?
Barbecue sauce.
That's it?
Yeah, barbecue
I usually
sauce.
like pickles and onions because I don't eat barbecue sauce, but pickles. I could eat a barrel of pickles by myself.
Now, you notice I'm being very, very careful right here at the end, trying to maintain my healthiness here.
Oh, there's like a little fat layer.
So what we're going to do is we're going to take that fat layer with as much of the meat off of it as we can, and we're going to get it out of here so we're not eating all that fat. Remember I said when we put it in that one, the crock pot, we put it on top. Most of it will render through there, so your pork will be nice and juicy. And you can see that this is juicy. You can see when you squeeze it, the juice is running out of it. We want to mix it up a little bit here. Do we have 4 plates, 5 plates? We need more plates.
Okay.
We got camera people to feed.
And we're using whole wheat hamburger buns, but you can use whatever you like, whatever kind of bread you like. If you don't eat bread, you could probably eat it as a snack.
You could just have a lot of restaurants will serve a pulled pork plate where it just sits on the plate. You could do that if you're into not eating the carbohydrates in the bread.
I'm not plugged in.
Well, I will continue while she plugs in. She forgot to plug her microphone back in. We're going to take some pulled pork here.
Can you hear me now?
And put some on each one of these sandwiches.
You need a spoon? You good with the forks?
No, I'm good.
You going for it?
I'd really just rather use my hands.
Here's that one.
So we have our pulled pork here.
Got it?
So we're going to create mounds. This one needs a little more. That one needs a little more. And then we're going to get our Sweet Baby Ray's barbecue sauce.
Which is your favorite?
That's my favorite. They asked Guy Fieri once what cornbread he uses in his restaurants.
Jiffy.
And he uses Jiffy. And he says, you can't beat perfection. Why are we trying?
No.
So for him, it's Jiffy. So this is going to be mine. I'm going to mound a little bit more on here. I like pulled pork.
You're going to get as much as you can on there?
And we're going to try this barbecue sauce.
I want to try just some of the pork really quick and see what it tastes like. So it's really tender and it's really juicy and it's got a little kick from some of the spices, but it's also got this kind of, I know we didn't smoke it, but it's got this kind of smoky thing happening. That's good. That's really
barbecue
good.
pulled pork. It's got to get on your face.
All over your face. What do you think? Good?
It's really good.
Let's see. Oh, so we are going to leave for a little bit. Bill's going to show us how to smoke a pork loin. If you have a smoker at home, you'll be able to do that. And then we will see you guys next time.
We have left the studio and we are now here at Sholo High School. We are going to be using the smoking portion of this exercise of doing a pulled pork. So we have our pulled pork. We have vacuum sealed ours to help them last longer. So we're going to put them in our rub. The rub is the same rub, just this time we're going to be using a lot more of it. The smoker has a tendency to want to cook a lot of it off. So we're going to use a lot more of it. I've got a tray for the raw product without being rubbed and a tray for the product that's going to have the rub on it. Now, because it's pork, chicken, beef, whatever you're doing, unfortunately, when you're done rubbing like this down, you have to throw all the excess rub away. It has these protein juices in it and protein stuff, and they all have sometimes bacteria in them, whether you want it to or not. And again, paprika's making my fingers really red, so we enjoy that. And we can smoke all kinds of different sizes. They don't all have to be the same size. If you could open that one, that would be beautiful. Again, this rub, the recipe is online for you already, so you know what's in it. You can change the rub. There are people that put a little more of one thing and a little less of another one, depending on what they like. I know that we used to put rosemary in our rub, and then we figured out that my daughter was allergic to rosemary, so we have to now take the rosemary out of it. So. It's kind of like a fish.
Yeah, he's got 2 pieces, doesn't he?
Yeah, this one kind of came apart, but it's okay. And then again, because we're trying to be as healthy as we can, even though maybe pork's not the healthiest thing on the planet. We are using a pork that has less fat in it, so that we're not having as much fat in our food. Well, you need some fat in your food because certain vitamins are fat dissolvable. They're called fat soluble vitamins. We should have had Brian come in. So you can see I'm really coating this on really, really thick. What you just heard was our wonderful ice machine. Maisie's over here freaking out. Maisie's over here freaking out because we got all kinds of noises in the background. We're actually in a commercially built kitchen here at the high school. So we got lots of noises that go on. And we are done with the rub at this time. And there are two kind of rules of thumb here. Some people say rub it, put it right in the smoker. Other people say rub it, let it sit for 24 hours, then put it in the smoker. These we're going to put right into the smoker. So we're going to pause for a moment so we can move outside, and then we'll continue on from there. So we got a really nice smoker here. Not all of them come with this. This comes with this little tray on the side. Carries all of our little equipment, our extension cords, our tables, our ice chests, our dining flies, things like that. Some of them aren't this big. This happens to be hickory. It is the primary wood used by most smokers in the country. I like to add a little pecan or other nut woods like almond, walnut. It gives the meat a nutty flavor. I also like to add fruit trees to it. Peach, apple, pear. That gives the meat a really sweet flavor. Different smokers, this one can take really large chunks. If you get a much smaller smoker, it takes smaller chunks. You won't be able to put this big of stuff in it. The only thing you should be doing is adding wood to the firebox. You estimate your time on how long it takes to smoke the meat. And this meat here, since they're in such small pieces, they'll probably take 6 to 8 hours. When we do this for our football tailgating and stuff, we'll have them on there for 15 hours to smoke. And the only thing we do is add wood to the smoke box. Here in the western United States, especially the southwestern United States, a big wood that's being used, and I love this wood in a smoker, mesquite. It adds kind of a tangy, gives it even a little bit of a bitter taste. The mesquite wood, that's the wood I like, but I still use hickory, I still use the pecan, I still use the nut woods, I still use the fruit trees. They're really hard woods, they take a long time to burn, they give you a nice long burn without burning out so fast that it doesn't seem to be cost effective. You can use pine, however, pine's really, really sooty. It also has a lot of sap in it and it burns really fast. And then you get that pine tree taste in your wood. So I don't recommend it. We have some already on the grill or on the smoker. They've been cooking for a little while. It's got 2 sides to it. We're only going to use that one. Different kinds of smokers. This is what is known as a reverse flow smoker. You kind of look at it, here's our firebox way back here, and here's our smokestack. So if you kind of thought firebox, smoke, out the smokestack, it doesn't do that. This one actually flows along the bottom, comes up the other side, and then flows through the top, which gives you a real even temperature on both sides of the smoker. So they don't have one side being really hot and one side being really cold. So we're going to put these in the smoker. When you're operating a smoker like this, it's low and slow. Low meaning the temperature of the smoker. Maximum temperature I usually run is about 225. There are some people that actually say it should never be over 200 degrees. Thanks for watching, guys. See you next month with Healthy Cooking with Show Low Public Library.